And we're going to talk a little bit about that tonight, the U.S. meddling in foreign countries. It's been going on for so many years. It's going on right now, obviously. Everyone's looking at Israel. It's happening in Israel. And the Christian genocide is part of it. The Christian genocide in Syria is part of that discussion. And now, this past few weeks, we see that genocide against Christians is in full swing.
At least 1,300 religious minorities, including Christians, have been murdered this past week by the successor to the Bashar al-Assad regime in Syria.
Now, I want to pause a little bit because I think it's very important to remind people that guys like Sean Hannity, guys like the insufferable Senator Lindsey Graham, they were telling us all along that President Assad was gassing his own people. We discussed this last week. And it's so important because then when it all blows up, like it's doing right now in Syria, these vaunted conservatives, they come out and tell us, yeah, man, Assad was, he was actually protecting the Christians. Well, where were you 10 years ago?
We just heard today that Israel's housing and construction minister, Yoav Gallant, is calling for the assassination of Syrian President Bashar Assad, following last week's U.S. State Department report that the Syrian regime was using a prison crematorium to hide mass killings outside of Damascus. So here we go again, gassing his own citizens, crematoriums, the whole bit. Haven't we heard all this before? He's gassing his own citizens. Really? Does no one want to look into that just a little bit more to find out what's going on? Has anyone even bothered to ask why? Why would this guy be gassing his own citizens willy-nilly? What's to be gained from this? Might there just not be a tiny bit more to the story? We're queuing up the new Saddam Hussein, the new Osama bin Laden, the new bad guy, because it's time to declare another war on another guy, by the way, who out of everyone in the region, regardless of what else he's doing right or wrong or what kind of a man we think he is, at the moment, he's protecting Christians in his country. This is beyond doubt.
Now, it's become a moot point, hasn't it, here in 2025? President Assad is gone, and very few Americans ever had the opportunity to even hear his side of the gassing his own people claim.
There was no order to make any attack. We don't have any chemical weapons. We gave up our arsenals a few years ago. Even if we have them, we wouldn't use them, and we had never used our chemical arsenal in our history.
That doesn't matter, right? That guy's gone. They're still ripping on him, but he's gone, and everybody's admitting, gee, I wonder what we did here. I wonder what happened. Assad's gone. Christians are dying once again, as we see. Everybody's talking about it now, 10 years later or more. But it was that gassing of his own people, fake news, friends. Because we're seeing something very similar happening right now, aren't we? Justifying unbelievable atrocities, justifying the annihilation, the genocide of children, women and children by the tens of thousands, right? Happening again. But that gassing his own people some years ago, that fake news, that was the story that got you involved. That's what people saw on TV, and they freaked out, right? And they exploited it, and they pushed it, and they terrorized it. And what do you know? They got all of us on board the USS Neocon in Syria.
The American cruise missile attack a week ago has changed a great deal for the regime. For the first time, it's been hit by the US. America's next moves are not clear, but the rhetoric has switched to regime change in Syria. The American attack, President Assad said, played into the hands of al-Qaeda.
Our impression that the West, mainly the United States, is hand in glove with the terrorists. They fabricated the whole story in order to have a pretext for the attack.
Yeah, and then a few years later, what happened?
Israel drops a massive bomb on Syria. Its impact was reportedly registered on the Richter scale. The explosion was measured as a 3.1 magnitude earthquake on the seismic sensor. The Israeli airstrikes on Sunday took place near Syria's coastal region. Damascus says it was the most intense bombardment in the area since 2012.
And now you have terrorist organizations, terrorist characters backed by the CIA, backed by Israel, taking over the country.
We're in supporters of Assad, the former president, who was overthrown by the forces that are killing them. The forces that are killing them is now the Syrian army. It used to be, in early December, November, a terrorist group called HTS.
Right.
They have now come into the army, and their leader, al-Shara, is now the president.
And the Christians are dying. And nobody listened, by the way, to the people on the ground. This is why we always try to, on this program, try to use people on the ground. In Israel, what do? We try to use Israelis. We try to use Jews, Jewish witnesses, Jewish voices to try to point people in the right direction, which is away from the TV and to the reality. Because in Syria, there were Catholic bishops all along on the ground trying to warn the world what was going to happen if Assad got taken out.
لأنه ما في بديل. أنت إذا بتختاري بين الأسد والغابة، شو هالثقافة اللي جايبين إياها؟ هي ثقافة داعش، إلغاء الآخر، قطع الرؤوس. ما شفتوهم على التلفزيون؟ كيف عم يقطعوا رؤوس البشر؟ لأنه مختلف؟ هذا هو الدين هذا.
Yeah, but nobody listened. It sounds kind of familiar, doesn't it? Because the Catholic bishops now in Jerusalem, they're doing exactly the same thing right now, trying to warn us. We're going to get to that in a moment. But before we do, I want to just remind your friends, things are really, really starting to heat up. And I just wanted to remind you to like and subscribe at YouTube for however much longer we'll be allowed to stay on YouTube. We never know. But more importantly, to remind your friends, your family, that Remnant TV videos are posted first and foremost at remnant-tv.com. It's very important because we can feel the noose starting to tighten again with respect to big tech. As you all know, if you expressed concern about what was happening in COVID, you got cut out. Well, now if you express concern about what is going on in Israel, in Gaza, well, you're also going to be cut out because of the charge of anti-Semitism.
The Pegasus revelation is disturbing, but not surprising, given the people currently interested in going after anyone, anywhere in the world, who is construed as an anti-Semite. And of course, that term is used effectively against anybody that doesn't want to unconditionally support Israel.
And the thing to remember, friends, is it really doesn't matter who you are. Nobody's above this. And how much money you make or how important you are, what your position is. They don't care because most of the world now is turning against what's happening in Israel. So they're going on offense, especially in the media, especially here in the States, right? So does this guy, for example, does he seem like an anti-Semite to you?